Happening now, yesterday's absentee vote count only certifying the Republican takeover in Jamestown. We check in with local party leaders about what's next. Plus, what local village has moved forward to allow cannabis dispensaries.
Well, that lake effect snow machine has cut out for now, but we're going to see a little bit of a warming trend for the middle of the week. We'll talk about it in detail next as the news at noon starts right now.
Live and on demand, this is WNY News Now.
As election officials in Chautauqua County work to certify this fall's vote, the Republican majority in Jamestown City Council is only becoming more apparent. Thank you for joining us for WNY News Now. I'm Justin Gould. The Republicans swept the night, winning 7 seats on the lawmaking body, with several new faces now joining the elected group. Our Bronson Rasmussen joins us live in the newsroom with more. Bronson?
Justin, the city's GOP chairman and Ward 1 Council Brent Sheldon says he's going to be working with the newly elected lawmakers, Councilman at Large-elect Randy DeVersa and Ward 6 Councilman-elect Andrew Faulkner. However, it is still up in the air about who will replace Ward 5 Councilman Grant Olson.
He was elected 2 years ago as a Republican, so we will be able to replace him with another Republican, and we will start talking to some of the Ward 5 Republicans and see if we can find a good candidate.
As for the process, once a candidate is selected by the Republican Party, the person will need to be approved by the city's mayor. After that, they will need to officially campaign in fall 2022 and would then be up for re-election in fall 2023, according to Chautauqua County Board of Elections Commissioner Brian Abram.
They would run back to back, sort of like our county executive has, where he fulfilled a 1-year term and then had to run again for his next 4-year term.
As for the search for the next council person, Sheldon is looking for someone who will put the best interest of Jamestown first.
I'm looking for somebody who's community-minded, somebody who is maybe serving the community in another manner.
The GOP holds a 7-2 majority in the lawmaking body, with Democrats Mary Karuba and Regina Brackman maintaining their positions. However, for Brackman, only by a slim lead. As Commissioner Abram explains, almost every year there's a race that comes down to the wire, like the race for Ward 3.
I'm sure both candidates are one saying, wow, I just is barely there, and the other one saying if I could have gotten 3 more people, to come on out that day and support me.
Nevertheless, Brackman says she is humbled to continue to serve the people of Jamestown.
My plans now are to continue to support the residents of Ward 3 in the city of Jamestown, hear their concerns and see what I can do to address them.
Other races we are watching, including County Legislative District 1, where projected winner Kevin Madani will likely win re-election, leading with a difference of 54 votes, and the Highway Supervisor race in the town of Carroll, where projected winner Michael Walker leads with an additional 27 votes from the absentee ballot count yesterday. Live in the newsroom, Bronson Rasmussen, WNY News Now.
A Jamestown City Councilwoman is continuing to express concern about Mayor Eddie Sundquist's 2022 executive budget as the December 1st deadline to pass it approaches. Councilwoman Kim Eklund, who is the Finance Committee chair, addressed her colleagues during a work session last night. She says that she's hesitant of the tentative proposal because of the ARPA component included in it.
I've been very vocal and very concerned about the intermingling of the ARPA funds and the budget all along. I shouldn't be surprised to any of you. Our job as a council and as a mayor is to provide a balanced budget. If we take out the ARPA out of this budget, it is far from balanced. So while I feel voting on the dollar amounts of the ARPA is probably important in the categories, I am very concerned with intermingling the 2 projects together in this budget.
Eklund says that she believes the council should adopt a general fund budget, noting that if the body passes the budget as it stands, it would show the public that it would be approving specific projects contained in the proposal. Eklund furthers that the council needs to work with, quote, due diligence in order to complete the budget process. The council will hold a public hearing on the budget this Friday at 6 o'clock in their city council chambers. And the village of Fredonia will allow cannabis retail sales within village limits. Trustees voted 4-0 against a resolution which would have prohibited marijuana retail sales. Under New York State's law legalizing cannabis, the lawmaking group has until December 31st to opt out of allowing retail sales. However, no municipality can completely outlaw the use of the drug. Several residents spoke to the Board of Trustees prior to that vote, some hoping that they would take action and opt out of the sales, while others petitioned to allow this new industry to take shape. This included Trustee Eva Dawn Bradshaw, who says the group wanted to make a statement by drafting a law to prohibit sales and then choosing to vote it down.
We did decide to bring it back up so that there could be a vote, so you knew where we stood. If you read the law, you'll notice that it's based on population. There's only going to be one dispensary in this town. And I think that based on population, read the law, it is defining, and New York State will control it anyway.
A handful of towns and villages across Chautauqua County have decided to not allow recreational sales. However, some governments, like the city of Jamestown, plan to take advantage of this new economy, which is expected to generate a significant amount of revenue statewide. Well, students at Suny JCC are now able to apply for lower tuition rates when transferring to a Nebraska-based four-year college. The school announced that this month they have partnered with Bellevue University, located in Nebraska, to provide a rate reduction to New York and PA residents. The Premier Partner Agreement gives Suny JCC grads a $350 credit hour tuition rate. Now, the best part is students don't even have to leave Jamestown to attend class, with Bellevue University hosting its courses online. Now, the university is employing a full-time relationship manager to help those here locally apply for that. Well, we thank you for joining us for WNY News Now. Let us know what you think about these stories and more in the comment section down below. We appreciate you joining us here on Facebook Live, and those of you watching us either live or on demand on channel 716 on Roku, hello as well. It's great to see Dave, good to see Jack, Scott, Ron, and Carol. Hopefully you all are having a wonderful day. We appreciate you tuning in. Well, now let's get a first check of our weather forecast. That's where we find Chief Forecaster Dakota Hunter. And it looks like a pretty chilly day out there on Chautauqua Lake, Dakota.
Yes, it is. It's a chilly day and a gloomy day as well, but at least the lake effect snow machine is cut out for now. You can see got a pair of threes at the Chautauqua Lake sky cam right now, and the clouds abode across the lake. And really, that's going to be the case throughout the day. You can see the clouds starting to in from Lake Erie. These are again more lake effect clouds, but notice a band of lake effect coming off Lake Ontario, but that's not going to impact the southern tier. And through the rest of the afternoon, we should stay mainly dry through the afternoon, but don't count on a whole lot of sunshine. We may see a few peaks later on this afternoon though. 38 was the high yesterday, started the day at 30. 73 is the record high, set at 1990. 10 is the record low. In terms of the snow data, we have 3 inches of snow on the ground at the airport. That's the current snow depth. 7 inches so far for the season, obviously now a bit above average. So lake effect rain and snow showers, any of them that are still out there, will come to an end. Partly sunny onward, still cold though. 34 to 42 is the high temp range with a southwest wind averaging about 7 to 14. Now it starts to warm up tomorrow, then temperatures go whoop right downhill for the rest of the week. We'll talk about where they're headed with that 7-day forecast later on in the show, so stay with us.
All right, Dakota, we'll see you back in 10 minutes. Our Pennsylvania State Capitol correspondent now hearing from the state's acting health secretary, Allison Beam, about the recent court ruling on masking in PA schools. Last week, the Commonwealth Court ruled 4-1 that Secretary Beam's school mask mandate was issued improperly, essentially throwing that order out. The health department, though, immediately appealed that ruling, and the case will now be heading to the state's Supreme Court. Beam says that the mask order still stands during the appeal process, and she believes that it is especially important as we approach the winter months.
For the school districts and for the parents with children in school, at this point, nothing changes. And of course, this fall into this winter, we're also going to shift from having activities outdoors to moving more to an indoor setting, just given our climate. And so that masking order remaining in place will be incredibly important.
Now, as of now, Warren County Schools' mask mandate will stay in place, officials say. Republican leaders from New York State Senate and Assembly are claiming that a bill currently in committee in Albany will cause extreme tax hikes for gas and home heating costs. Isabel Garcia with our news partner WENY is breaking down the Climate and Community Investment Act and explains why GOP leaders believe this will add to more loss in jobs for the state.
Local and regional stakeholders gathered in Corning on Monday to discuss concerns regarding the Climate and Community Investment Act. It would impose a carbon tax of $55 per ton of fossil fuel emissions on corporate entities in or entering the state. One main concern for GOP leaders, jobs.
The worry for us is that, how is this going to affect our business? How is this going to affect our customers? We know it's going to mean increased costs overall. You've heard all the speakers today talk about increased costs, and we think they're going to be quite detrimental.
Another major concern addressed included farmland usage.
If you look at the amount of land, let's say we talk about Indian Point Nuclear Facility, which was producing 2,000 megawatts of electricity. It was in a smaller, compact area, whereas to get that same generation from a solar or wind, it takes a significant amount of land uses.
The CCIA would use the tax fees collected to put back into communities through green jobs. New York Assemblywoman Anna Kellis is reacting to the roundtable discussion. She says this measure is necessary to reach the renewable energy mandates under the 2019 Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act.
Saying, how are we going to stop this? Let's put a fee on the institutions, the corporations that are doing it, and put that money back into the system to the people who are experiencing the harm of it the most.
Currently, the legislation sits in the Senate Environmental Conservation Committee. For WNY News, I'm Isabel Garcia.
Coming up, a Silver Creek fire blamed on faulty wiring, and later, Jamestown's first major snowfall, well, it's hit. Although, it's good news for many businesses in our region. We find out later. Stay with us as WNY News Now continues.
With coverage that matters. This is WNY News Now.
EagleZip.com is your local one-stop shop for all of your home and business computer needs. Located on Fluvan Avenue Extension, just outside of Jamestown, EagleZip.com sells and services all brands of desktops and laptops, as well as servers and network equipment for your business. All new computer sales include transferring your data from your old computer, plus a 2-year warranty. Call EagleZip.com today.
Stop by EagleZip.com today and let us make computers easy for you.
Welcome to Honest John's Pizzeria, where you are the most important customer.
Everything from freshly made subs to the best of pizza and wings, Honest John's has it all.
And don't forget the ice cream!
Order online today or check out our 2 great locations with buffets ready for every appetite.
Don't I have the best job in the world?
What could you lose in a home fire? Your possessions? Your home? Your memories? Don't let your world go up in smoke. Make sure you have working smoke alarms and practice an escape plan for you and your loved ones, because fire is everyone's fight.
This message was brought to you by the Jamestown Fire Department and the Chautauqua Safety Village.
Remember when you were a kid, huddled around the television waiting for your school to close? Well, we don't get snow days. When winter weather hits, count on the First Defense Weather Team for a look into the future where the snow is headed next. Live radar showing you the scope of the storm, and real-time reports from the field. So when it matters most, stay with First Defense Weather.
Catch your First Defense forecast daily on WNY News Now. You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
Faulty electric wiring is blamed for a blaze at a northern Chautauqua County residence. Fire crews were called to 191 Central Avenue in Silver Creek around 8 in the morning yesterday. The Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office Fire Investigation Team determined that a failed electrical wiring in the rear utility room of that home likely sparked the fire. Silver Creek firefighters received mutual aid from several other departments, including Forestville and Hanover Center. Well, President Joe Biden commemorating a major legislative victory as he signed the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure package into law. The legislation aims to deliver $550 billion of new federal incentives to Americans' infrastructure roads over the next years. The bill signing ceremony also a moment of bipartisan unity with leaders from both sides of the aisle in attendance. Chris Wynn with more from Washington.
In Washington, D.C., a rare bipartisan moment Monday afternoon as President Joe Biden celebrates a major legislative win.
Today, we're finally getting this done.
The president signing the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill into law, clearing the way for federal investments in communities throughout the nation.
My message to the American people is this: America's moving again, and your life is going to change for the better.
The package will deliver $550 billion in new federal money to upgrade America's aging infrastructure over the next 5 years. At its core, more funding for roads and bridges, as well as mass transit, rail, airports, ports, and waterways.
We have been waiting literally for decades for this kind of investment in infrastructure in this city.
The bill includes billions of dollars to improve access to high-speed internet and clean drinking water. It'll also help with electric grid enhancements and climate resiliency projects, and allocates money to build a network of plug-in electric vehicle chargers across the country. Lawmakers on both sides of the political aisle coming together.
This bipartisan support for this bill comes because it makes sense for our constituents. But the approach from the center out should be the norm, not the exception.
The Biden administration says it will take time for Americans to notice the results of the bill's investments, but believes it will have a transformational impact down the road. In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn.
New York State is slated to receive billions of dollars in federal funding under President Biden's $1.2 trillion infrastructure package. Governor Kathy Hochul spoke to the media in Albany yesterday just before departing for D.C. to attend that ceremony. Hochul says that this money will help improve long overdue infrastructure projects statewide.
More than $14 billion for New York roads and bridges, $10.5 billion for our transit systems across the state, $3 billion for clean water, $100 million for continued broadband deployment, something we hear about every single day, and I continue as governor, even not as much as lieutenant governor. I still travel the state. I know the vulnerabilities when my cell phones drop, and I say, why? So we're going to get that fixed as well.
Additionally, she says because of the federal money, there will not be a fare hike or service cut in MTA customers in New York City. Well, jury deliberations in the trial against Kyle Rittenhouse are now underway for that man charged with killing 2 people and wounding another during an August 2020 protest that followed the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin. Isabel Rosales has the latest on what's happening from Kenosha.
2 weeks in a Kenosha County courthouse, and it's all come down to this.
I think it's no surprise that this is a case that there's a lot of noise and a lot of static surrounding it. If you're the one who is threatening others, you lose the right to claim self-defense.
In closing arguments, prosecutors say Kyle Rittenhouse killed 2 unarmed people and severely wounded a 3rd person with an AR-15 style weapon that he knew he couldn't have. But the 17-year-old's attorneys say Rittenhouse fired the shots to protect himself.
It wasn't until you pointed your gun at him, advanced on him, with your gun, now your hands down, pointed at him, that he fired, right?
Correct.
Also today, the judge dismissed a misdemeanor weapons possession charge against Rittenhouse. As for the other charges against him, jurors will first consider each original offense. However, if they decide Rittenhouse is not guilty, the jury can consider corresponding lesser offenses for 2 counts.
So I didn't do anything wrong. I defended myself.
Last week, Rittenhouse testified he acted in self-defense. He's pleaded not guilty to all charges. If convicted of the most serious charge against him, he faces a mandatory sentence of life in prison. In Kenosha, Wisconsin, I'm Isabel Rosales reporting.
Fast, accurate, and everyday. First Defense Weather.
All right, you want to know how hard it was snowing last night? How about this? My friend Nick took this picture yesterday. yesterday, and I think that's not only a cool picture, but it shows you just the nature of how lake effect is, how you get these big fat white flakes that are falling, and that was such a cool picture, we had to use it. So of course, if you have any pictures or videos of the weather, you can send them to Hunters WX on Twitter, the First Defense Weather page on Facebook, and always use that hashtag MyLocalWX. And in terms of those snowfall totals, this is what we have across the area. Franklinville at 8 inches, that's in the hills of Cat County. In Kennedy, 4.6 inches. Jamestown here, 3 inches, also in Falconer. Gary, 2.1, in DeWittville, an inch. So again, understand the same thing we talked about yesterday. These are the snow totals, not the snow depth. Now, there is 3 inches of snow on the ground at the airport. That's why the snow depth is at 3 inches. So all of this is lake effect. We've shown this graphic last year, but wanted to bring it back because it's kind of cool to show you how lake effect snow forms. So lake effect snow forms with that warm Lake Erie water. The Lake Erie water temperature sits at 53 degrees right now, and that is relatively warm. So when we get that cool air that rushes across a relatively warm water, there has to be a 25-degree temperature difference between the surface of the water to 5,000 feet. That's generally when we start to see that warm air rising. And then these clouds start to form. If you ever go to Buffalo and you drive across the Skyway downtown during a lake effect snowstorm, you can see those clouds billowing up into the sky, and then those clouds form, and then those clouds ultimately get pushed by the Lake Erie wind as that wind comes across the lake, pushes them inland and drops snow, and that's ultimately the main deciding factor of who's going to get snow, where those bands ultimately get pushed with the wind. Pointed the News Now cam down to kind of show you some of the snow on the trees downtown from outside right now. Pair of threes at noon hour, southwest wind to 6, the wind chill at 27. And the good news is we don't have any fog at the airport like we did at this hour yesterday, so you can see for 10 miles. All right, so here's the satellite and radar composite. You can see again these orange lines indicate a trough coming in. So cooler air continues to get surged in, but we're going to ultimately see a brief change in this by the time we go to tomorrow. So future scan shows you any of those lake snow and rain showers that are out there are going to dissipate through the afternoon. May see partial sunshine. Clouds will start to thicken up overnight, so it will be partly cloudy to start, then it will turn mostly cloudy through the overnight hours. Then as we go through the day tomorrow, we'll see a few passing showers from time to time, rather scattered, nothing widespread and nothing too heavy. But by the time we go into Thursday, we're going to see a big shift in the weather pattern. Temperatures fall through the day on Thursday, and ultimately, you know what that's going to do, rain to snow through the afternoon hours. So temperatures across the inland areas today, yeah, almost the same as yesterday. Mid to upper 60s, mid to upper 30s, not 60s. We wish it was mid to upper 60s, but any of those mixed precipitations add with some limited sunshine later in the day. The next 7 days of your life are on the screen. 54 tomorrow, 47 and falling on Thursday. Will likely end the day probably around 33. Mixed precipitation on Friday. Saturday we should dry out, then mixed rain and snow showers return for the second half of the weekend and into early next week. We will take a break and be right back. Don't go away.
With coverage that matters. This is WNY News Now.
The registration is being run through the Chamber's sites, which is www.jtny.com. So if you go to click on that link, there's a fillable form online that you can just type in. We'll want to know, obviously a business name or a community group's name, location, a contact name, and then if you just plan on marching or if you actually have a float. I come from a small business family, so small business to me is very important. I understand about being in downtown Jamestown and being a small business. I want to meet with them and I want to gauge if they're going to be open, number one. If they're number two, would they like to promote a special or something that evening that they can do just for the parade? A good friend of mine, like a teacher at Washington Middle School, Lisa Peters. What do you think about Jamestown, New York, a diverse city, celebrating traditions from around the world? Perfect. That's us. That's who we are. That's a great theme.
How prepared is your family if a hurricane shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a blizzard? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes! Make a plan today.
I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor.
Testicular cancer is the leading form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35.
1 in 250 men will be diagnosed with testicular cancer.
But 98% will survive if detected early.
As a survivor, I believe early detection is the key. Learn how to do a testicular self-exam and other important facts about testicular cancer at oneball4tc.com.
You're watching WNY News Now, your source for breaking news.
Well, as the snow falls, it's good news for some local businesses. As Erie News Now's Kristen Allen reports for us, stores in the snow belts, shovels, snow brushes are all flying off the shelves there. And plow drivers, well, they're ready to get back to work.
I'm always ready. Snow is a happy season for us. It's pennies from heaven.
Minnie and Corey woke up with several inches of snow on Monday morning. A dreaded sight for some, but a pleasant sight for others.
We got plenty of brushes and snow brushes, and we just put out the snow brooms so when the snow comes in heavy that people can get it cleaned off.
Corey Lumber was filled with customers all day on Monday, stocking up on winter essentials like shovels and heaters. Store co-owner Mark Sanders says the first lake effect rush happens every year.
Can't find our snow brush, so they've been in raiding us with snow brushes and everything else, and space heaters and heaters just because it's getting cold.
And it's not just supplies people are rushing to get, it's services too.
We've been up since about 2 o'clock taking care of some of the shops that we have. Yep, cleaning sidewalks and entranceways.
John Maker owns a snow removal business with most of his clients located in the Corey area. They've been shoveling and scraping for several hours already. He says it's not enough to just scrape the snow, though. It's important to melt the ice underneath, too. If you've already got salt on your porches from last year, it's time to dust the snow off of them and get it ready, because with this thick, wet snow, you can guarantee sidewalks, driveways, and porches are going to be slick. Maker knows this is only the beginning of a busy Erie County winter, but he's just excited for it to get underway and help people prepare for the snow.
Been crazy. It comes down and melted down, and then all of a sudden it shows up again, and we go out and do some salting, and it melts down, and obviously you see it's coming down again.
It just keeps coming and coming. That's the thing. Yesterday, lake effect snow fascinates me so much, Dakota, and the fact that it is so localized, where places like Corey, for example, will get hit, but then as you head eastward, maybe there's a break, and then you continue eastward, and then, look at this, Jamestown, Faulkner, Randolph, slammed again.
I mean, one of the things about lake effect, about, all of the meteorologists who come to the Western New York area and the Buffalo market, if they haven't lived in a market where they don't get lake effect snow, their first winter is going to be a little bit difficult, because you really have to experience lake effect snow in order to forecast it properly. And it's definitely a different beast. It is not a winter storm. It is a completely different animal. And
in that forecasting, I know we don't like to move the curtain back too much, but how does that work? Because your models, generally speaking, are pretty accurate, but depending on the slightest wind change, I imagine that can have big impacts as to who's going to get what.
Yeah, we had talked about it during that little Peg the Geek Meter segment there, about how really it's the winds that really determine who's going to get hit and who's not. And that is something that we really look at when we're trying to forecast where these bands are going to be, who's going to see the most amount of snow. It's really about where those winds are. And if there's a slight change in the winds, it may jog the band north, jog it a little bit south, and that's just how lake effect is. And it is and really, if you want to know the best person for any information on any sort of lake effect, there's a guy who was the lead forecaster at the Buffalo Weather Service office, who now works for the Weather Channel, and his name is on the top of my tongue, but I can't think of it at the moment. But anyway, he is in the words of Don Paul, he's the prince of lake effect, because he knows everything there is about it.
You definitely got to know what you're doing, and we're thankful that we have you and other great meteorologists and forecasters to really help us tell that story. Let us know what you guys think. Is the lake effect too much for you? I'm just glad we're going to get a little bit of a warm-up coming up in the next couple of days. Dakota, thank you. That's it for us. Have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow.